So thank you so much, everyone who are joining us either in person or via Zoom. Tonight, it's pretty cold and snowy in Minnesota, so we're not surprised that many people decided to just, join from the comfort of their homes. But in the room, I should say that we have our 6 featured poets, and I guess their dearest family and friends who braved the weather and actually come into the room. And we also have a couple of staff members from Springboard for the Arts, which we are very thankful for, and Hedy will be doing a proper thank you to Springboard for the Arts. So this is under the sign of the moonbeam grass, an evening of Southeast Asian poetry. And basically, this is the class reading for a fall of 2022 class that we held virtually through The Loft, which is a literary organization based in Minneapolis, but we have had, registrants from around the country, and even one time a registrant from Hong Kong, so that was wonderful. In the past, we had a couple of other classes and we did our readings virtually, but today we are very fortunate to be able to be in person, and we are meeting actually in person for the first time after taking maybe 1, 2, or 3 classes together. So it's really exciting, and we are so thankful to have the opportunity to be here together in person, to also be in the company of our friends, families, colleagues via Zoom or in person. And we will then just start and enjoy the evening. So,
hello everyone, how is everybody here and online? How you doing? Thumbs up? All right, wonderful. Before I start, I want to really express appreciation to Springboard for the Arts. We have 2 staff members here, they're waving their hands, right? Yes. I was part of the Creating Community Leadership Institute this year and got to know them, and then we're using this really lovely space. Thank you. A little bit about myself, and we are moving that a little bit. Yes, beautiful. So I am Southeast Asian. I was born in Singapore, which is in the middle of Southeast Asia. I was born just after World War II. I went to school, can you maybe put that off for a little bit? I went to school, worked, then emigrated when I was 30, and I've been living in the US for the last 44 years. I do identify as an elder, a poet, a writer, and a memoirist. And so when I was part of Pacyinz workshops, I was fascinated by the vibrant poetry culture that is happening in Singapore. Remember, I left there, over 40 years ago, but it seems to be exploding in new forms and styles. So I was really intrigued by what they called the Corona sonnet. Corona. So it originated in the early days of COVID, so now you can bring that on, by a group called Singapore Poets Month. So this is an example. They used 14 lines of a sonnet, and this was to pay homage to Italy, the origin of sonnets. It had the highest number of deaths at the beginning of the pandemic, so this is paying homage to them. Now Italy has about 14% case fertility rate due to COVID, compared to Singapore's 0.08%. Singapore is the world's most vaccinated country at 96%, just in June. So the Corona sonnet shows this pattern, 14 lines, but 2 of those lines are infected by another poem. So those first 2 lines are infected by the national anthem, the last 2 lines of the national anthem. And you will see it in my poems as italicized. Now the first 8 lines, there's no symptoms, it looks like a sonnet, but at the 9th line, you will see a mutation. The words become capital. COVID is in capital letters, right? So that's when the mutation begins. Line 11, though, the words start to social distance themselves. So when it's read, there's more of a pause in between. I use 3 spaces. That's what the social distancing is in Singapore right now. Line 12 is still socially distanced, but it's becoming monosyllabic. COVID is a respiratory disease, and I interpret that, when you don't have much breath, you're doing, okay. Then line 13 and 14 continuing that monosyllables, but it's getting, the words are getting more and more apart. 6 spaces, more spaces, that's social distancing. I thought that was fascinating. And so this first poem that I will read to you is about the merlion. You're familiar with Singapore. This is a tourist attraction, so here we go. And the first 2 lines, as I said, are an infection from the last 2 lines of the Singapore's national anthem by Encik Subir Said. Majulah Singapura, Majulah Singapura. Freedom flows from the lion singer's mane, spews clear sea sprays on tourist eyes. They bring their billions and come in millions to see a cold, stone gray fish butt statue staring out to sea. Lights bring illusions of a fantastical, mythical beast recorded in digital pictures to remember far-off places that created happy faces, exotic spaces. But you will not know the real Singapore, only what those in power want you to see, to feel, to taste, to hear and touch. Eat with sticks in small bites and bits. Eat with hands. Wash your feet. Steel shoes by temple gates. So the very words are being, you're gonna clap then. The very words are being infected. I thought that was just very innovative. So this is the group, as I said, in Singapore group that's doing that. So the next 2 are on grass. Grass, I brought a grass. And the infection, way up there, italicized, comes from Walt Whitman's poem, Song of Myself. So, a child said, "What is the grass?" Fetching it to me with full hands. How could I answer the child? I do not know what it is any more than he. The swordgrass blade sways, softly escaping the smothering of snow. I take the wet grass stalk, swathed in fluff, and place it on my mother's lap. Her great-grandson strokes, you've stroked it before, right? Strokes the fuzzy dog's tail of hairy seeds, squeezing pieces in quiet satisfaction. These seeds, dry and ripe, wait to be wafted by the wild winds of time that brought my mother to this land on the other side of her world. This is a different land of different grasses, different people, different cultures. And that's a translation of this. Mubatano, mubaduhut, mubahalak, mubaadat. She adapted, she assimilated, she transplanted, but left behind family, friends, enemies. She does not need to ask whence came this grass. She only seeks to feel that grass that first touched her heel. Thank you. So my third and last poem, I actually want you to notice how you can see contract tracing from that poem, the grass poem, and also some words from the Merlion poem. And I call it My Mother's Memories. She came when she was 80, and in the poem it tells how long she lived. My mother's memories. She adapted, she assimilated, she transplanted, but left behind family, friends, enemies. In those far-off places that created happy faces, memories of fast disappearing exotic spaces. Even in America, obedience to patriarchal norms prevailed. She smiled when asked if she can speak English, a language she has taught. Yet, like grass that breaks not in high winds, her resilience endured. Her gentle pride that would not take a fall, like grass stalks stand tall. So here's the infection. She sneaked a lottery ticket or two. Gambling ran in her veins. Just the right numbers, just the right luck. Hope never dying for that big windfall. At 100, those far off places faded. At 103, she let her guilt go free.